Time is both a gift and currency. We all have been given 168 hours. You could have been taught how to do something that demands you incorporate business in your journey. But you may have not been skilled in acquiring people skills, only to find yourself having the skill to open the business that should bring about success for you, but your people skills have never been developed. And so you don't understand the importance of community, you don't understand it.
And then the community itself.
If I'm a 5, guess who I'm gonna more than likely hang around? 1, 2s, and 3s.
I enjoyed the seminar today. It was very informative. It will help me improve my life as I move forward in my next phase of life.
And there's an encouragement and a level of accountability.
I really enjoyed the class today. And this is the next season of my life. And this is very helpful for me because I'm an empty nester. And now it's all about Tina and where I should be going. And this is very helpful to me.
Because once you go into denial and excuses, you imprison yourself from all possibilities. Anybody have ever met somebody when they open their mouth, you say, well, I can't help you. The more you understand your vision in life, meaning this is what I'm trying to do in the next year, it determines what time you go to bed. It determines what time you get up. It determines what book you read. When life purpose is not discovered, life then is not appreciated at its best. Why? You disregard a lot of things. For a person who don't know their purpose, they don't have meaning.
Coach Ricardo delivered information that was educational, that's beneficial, and his content is always good. I want to encourage everyone, if you have not connected with the Effective Living community, you are missing out on abilities to evolve and grow. You becoming better each and every day.
As long as you're holding on to blame and denial, you'll never live life effectively. Welcome back to Effective Living Early Morning Conversation. I don't know where you are around the world, but I know this talk is going to help somebody today. I'm joined with my kingdom brother and close friend, EC Cunningham. What's up, EC?
What's up, Ricardo? How you doing, man?
Man, listen, you did this with me before, and there were a couple of subject matters that I wanted to have you come back and do, and we're going to still have to get to those because whenever you show up, man, you deliver.
Oh, well, man, I appreciate it. You pull out of me and everybody else you talk to some of the best information, not saying that it's just all me, but you have a way, man, of effectively causing people to walk in their purpose and their life. And so, you know, the things that are there, man, you just have a great way of pulling it out. That's what educar is, education. Educar is to pull out of one which is innately in them. Wow. That's deep. I don't want to go too deep.
I know. Right? let's dive into this. Let's go into this, man, because I want my audience to know, first and foremost, who is EC Cunningham? Go ahead.
Man, EC Cunningham is a little boy that was born in Milwaukee, raised in the suburbs of Chicago, in a place called Markham. Around 4 or 5 years old, I got my first organ, toy organ, and I started playing. I ended up getting a scholarship at age 6, started playing the organ, and started playing it in church. Age 16, I kind of knew that something was going on in my life. Age 19, I felt the call of God, and I immediately knew it was, I told my pastor's wife, I said, hey, I don't know whether it's in my music or in preaching or in both, but I know I'm supposed to give it back to kids and youth and, you know, help in a greater way. And so I started at age 20, my first sermon, and man, ended up on a mega church staff in 97. Well, actually, I started going to the church in 97. ended up on staff 6 months later in '98, became children's pastor in 2000, and was that for years. I did a quasi-retirement, but I got called back, was children's pastor, online pastor, and then I moved to Texas, man, in 2013, down in your land, and was a campus pastor at a mega church there. Then came back, was a pastor in Grand Rapids, and now I'm back in Chicago, man. And I'm doing a couple things, man. I think who I am right now is about helping people find purpose, you know, and living on purpose. So living in their purpose. And I work for a tech company, you know, the tech company, and just got a promotion yesterday, man. But you know, I bless God for that. And so that's who I am, man. That's what I do and what I've done. Who I am, man, is a guy who tries to live on purpose and help people find their purpose.
Congratulations on the promotion. I don't know if I told you before, but you're the first person that took me in an Uber.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I had never been in an Uber before. And we were at a major conference. Both you and I were speakers. And you said, hey, man, we got to make a run. And I'm like, okay, what are you driving? You said, man, I got a car coming for me. Not only was it a car, but it was a nice car.
Yeah, man. I had to treat you right, bro. I had to treat you right. I knew where you were going.
In addition, that was my first time doing the train in Chicago as well.
Yeah.
That was the first time. So
with your phone, with your face in the phone, and I had to text him. He was behind me, and I'm like, "Yo, man, put your phone away. We're in Chicago."
Hey, man, EC, it's been a journey, right? It's been a journey.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about this, man. We live in a world. I mean, the United States is the most diverse country on the planet. Multicultural, dynamic as we know it. When you think of multicultural, I mean, you're in one of the mecca of multicultural, that of Chicago. I want to talk about that as our focus today, becoming a multicultural leader. I think there are a lot of people who don't understand that there is some intentional activity that one must embrace in order for you to flourish best in multicultural space. When you think about multicultural, what comes to mind?
Well, when I think about multicultural, I think about race, I think about religion, I think about experiences, I think about location, I think about people who are from different walks of life, whether that again is skin or whether that is experience, those coming together and grouping with kind of a common locale. But that's what I think about, man.
When you think about that, in addition, let's talk about the misconceptions. Let's talk about some of the misconceptions, because there are some common misconceptions when it comes to living in multicultural society. Yeah.
Some of the misconceptions is that if I emulate, I can relate. Wow. If I emulate, so if I become like someone else in a culture, I'm actually relating like them. But I think the misconception behind that is you don't have to become something of somebody else in order to relate to them. Right. What makes culture great is the uniqueness amongst them. And so when it comes to multicultural, in that area, everyone being themselves, that misconception, I think, is one of the biggest one, is emulation is relation, and it's not. It's not.
Wow, that is so good. You know, years ago, I was talking to a friend of mine, and I said, man, the power of our difference coming together in respect of our difference makes it powerful. What do you think about that?
Oh man, that's I couldn't have said it better. Yes, the power of those differences is because it's like gumbo. And we always use that example. It's best when all the ingredients are different. Like if you just have one ingredient, that's not gumbo. That the idea of gumbo is to have several ingredients. And I believe we were even created like that. All the differences make the thing better. We just gotta live in our own lane. We gotta live in our own lane. Yes, sir.
The idea of living in our own lane. Let me float into what you just mentioned. The idea of living within our own lane in a multicultural space, though, have a tendency of being very difficult. Why do you think it's difficult for people to live in their own lane?
You know, it's difficult because I want, going back to that idea of emulation, I want someone to validate me, but I also want someone to be like me, be like-minded. And when we get in those spaces, especially in a multicultural, whether that be church or whether that be village, whether that be community, whatever community that is, when we get in that, we want some like-minded, because we tend to gravitate to people who are like us. The difficulty comes when people are uniquely themselves and they live that out loud.
Yeah.
And it's hard because you have to, there's a sense of, I won't say compromise. Compromise can be a negative word, but there is a sense of giving up. There's a sense of releasing your own perspective to hear and listen to someone else's perspective. And then for that to come to the table and work alongside of oneself.
Wow.
Or someone else.
You mentioned that, and I think I want to go into the whole idea of embracing difference, the comfortableness of embracing difference, because you mentioned there has to be some level of compromise if you're going to embrace difference. As you mentioned also that we're more inclined to be drawn towards who we are. Right? Naturally who we are. And that's why I know in Chicago they have pockets of people groups.
Yes.
Right? Just as they would have in Miami when it comes to the Caribbean, when it comes to New York, pockets of people group. Embracing difference. That needs to be a message, but it's a message that most people don't want to talk about. Why?
Yeah. Well, you know what? Embracing difference, I think, has us to accept where we are limited. It causes me to say, I know so much, and at that point is where I have to open myself to learning. And it's hard for me to learn or open myself up to learning when I feel like I have to level up and I have to own that. I have to be vulnerable. Leadership and individuals who are not vulnerable, it's hard for them to accept new information and new people and new situations. So I believe it has a lot to that limitation. If I've hit that lid, I have to be open to say, hey, I need to learn from here. Learning means listening. Learning means accepting. Learning means opening myself up to something that I may not be able to handle. And I think those lids is where people kind of get caught up right there.
I started to realize something when it came to being a multicultural leader in my travels and working with a lot of different people groups. When I went back home to the Bahamas, as you know, I'm from the Bahamas, and you visited the Bahamas a number of times.
Yeah.
I was in this restaurant, and it was a local restaurant. It was Bahamian food, and I could hear the couple in the back of me entertaining a few American guests, and they said, well, y'all are going to enjoy the food here because it's the best. And so one of the Americans says, is this macaroni and cheese? And the Bahamian person says, y'all don't know how to cook macaroni and cheese. We're going to show y'all today. This is the right way to cook macaroni and cheese. And it disturbed me a little bit because I said she spoke so strong to believe that it was the right way. But if you're in Texas and you go and you're visiting from the Bahamas, they would say y'all in the Bahamas don't know how to cook macaroni and cheese because Texas way is the way, or New York way is the way. Why do we do that and expect to get along with people?
Yeah, you know what? What it makes me think of is just that desire again to be relevant. It's that desire again to be accepted. And so a lot of times we want what we do to be it because we're dependent upon that to be relevant. And I think it comes back to that even in leadership. We set ourselves apart from everybody, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But when it comes to saying that our way is the only way, we limit ourselves. This is why, and I know you didn't ask me to say this, and I'm not trying to just gas you up, but that's why I appreciate these conversations with you. And that's why I appreciate your platform, is because you have people from all angles and vantage points in life, leaders from everywhere. I think that's what allows you, and then what you do, to be effective. And I think that's what would allow a person to be effective, whether it's macaroni and cheese or whether it's your leadership style or where you are. If you are open to say my way is not the only way, it allows you to expand your palette, allows you to expand who you are, and allows you to get into places, into rooms where people need it. So we do that sometimes because we're looking for some type of validation. We're looking for some type of relevation, relevation, to be relevant. So, you know, I think it's part of it, a lot of it has to do with a person's own self-consciousness, their own confidence. We got to get over that. We have to understand we're all uniquely made, wonderfully made, and uniquely made.
Man, listen, ladies and gentlemen, we're joined with EC Cunningham. Today we're talking about becoming a multicultural leader. I'm of the belief that more now than ever, we've got to learn how to get along with different types of people.
Absolutely.
You know, EC, I want to talk about what, you know, I've been teaching we have to be lifelong learners, and being lifelong learners, living in this world that has changed so much when it comes to everywhere we turn, we see and meet and have to be involved with so many different types of people. What would you say would be some pointers for our viewers in relations to cultural differences, accepting cultural differences? Because there are some churches that are not accepting because they're locked off from the fact that I need to learn how to get along with different cultures and different people groups.
You know, I think the biggest thing is eating with people. I hope I can hone in on this really well. I was on a staff of a multicultural church in Grand Rapids, and one of the things that was really, the best way to put it, was really effective with me was this idea, and I had never put some language to it, of whose feet are under your table. Who are you fellowshipping with, having food with, not just because you're paid to do it. And that's the key. I think if you're paid to be with other cultures, then you're not effectively being with those other cultures. So who do you place in your circle? Who do you allow in your circle? Whose feet, and was the phrase, whose feet are under your table? Maybe not just like your proverbial table or the real table, or it may be a proverbial table. Who are you spending time with outside of being paid to spend time with them? That's what makes a difference, I think, when it comes to being and intentionally being a part of a multicultural group and community.
Let's talk about the whole concept of better. There are people groups that think they got something on lock, right? And there are some groups that really have figured out certain things better than other groups. But there are groups who, once again, wouldn't acknowledge that some people group are better in certain respect and so forth. That whole concept of better, neglecting the fact that you could get more if you accept my better, even though I'm different than you and you need what I have that's better, but you don't want to accept me because I'm different, right? Or we're talking the mere fact of you think you're superior when you know you're not superior. We're all superior together when we embrace our difference. Talk about that whole concept of any group thinking they're better.
You know what you said, I think the operative word there is superior. My better is different because it may be the best in a category. If we learn, so you spoke about Chicago. I think what's unique about Chicago is, yes, it's a conglomerate of different cultures. Everyone is segregated or separated into their pockets, but you can go into those areas and find the best or better cooking or better shopping or better, because in that area or in those communities, they thrive upon that. And I think where it becomes a problem is, going back to that word, is when we think our better is superior.
Yeah.
It's better for where it is. It's better for what it is.
Yeah.
You might be better than me when it comes to speaking, or you might be better to me, or I might be better to you than you when it comes to technology, whatever the case is.
Yep.
But my better doesn't make yours less.
Yep.
It just makes mine. It's almost this idea, and I've been saying this to a lot of people. It doesn't have to be against.
Yep.
I'm just for.
Yep.
I'm not against your situation. I'm for mine. And so when it comes to better and putting that in perspective, if we have the attitude it's not against, I'm just for, we will understand that my better is not superior to yours, it's different than yours. And whether that's, again, cooking, food, leadership, church, community activities, company, all of that, it makes it better in its area, but it doesn't make it superior. It's just different. I'm not against you. I'm just for me.
Yeah. Hey, Dave Chappelle has an incredible quote out. I was trying to find the quote, and I'm doing a training next week. And I told the leader, I said, hey, I'm going to pull that Dave Chappelle quote out because I think a lot of people miss this incredible message that he was trying to share, in that of embracing difference while not losing yourself. The term, and I know you've heard this term before, can we all just get along? Why haven't we been able to get along when it comes to this whole multicultural society that is being formed, but yet we need to, watch this, we need to coexist, but we're conflicting with the idea of getting along.
I think the very bottom of it, the very crux of it, has a lot to do with fear. We fear the unknown.
That's good.
That's why people fear death. People fear going for another job. We fear the unknown because the unknown is uncontrollable.
Yep.
And I think we fear each other because we don't know each other. We don't listen to each other. And when we don't do that, not only do we miss out, but then we separate ourselves. And that's where that idea of superiority comes from, is because I think what you have is going to take over what I have. We can't control it. And so the idea of fear keeps us separate.
Yep.
When we learn one another, when we listen to one another, whether that's in a community, like whether it's racial or religious, any of the communities, when we listen to one another, we learn from one another, and then we're able to accept better. We don't have to emulate. We don't have to become that. We just have to accept and be able to walk together.
Yeah.
But that's the reason why, in my opinion, the reason why is we have fear from one another. And when we fear something that we don't understand, we realize we can't control it, and we just push it away.
Let's talk to our viewing audience, those who would have limited themselves from ever being their best self or acquiring more from life because they've chosen just try to not deal with particular people groups entirely. I've met people who would have said, they've gone as strong to say, I don't like white people, I don't like black people, I don't deal with Hispanics, I don't trust Asians, I'm saying, those people from this area or whatever. I mean, I met one lady one time, she said, oh, you're from the Caribbean, I don't like Caribbean people. I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, the Caribbean is so odd. Man, what did the Caribbean do to you, right?
What's interesting is we limit ourselves when we limit our contact and community and communication with people, especially when it comes to racial or ethnicity, culture or religion. We limit our ability and our effectiveness with them. One of the things that I believe here lately is that I'm supposed to have a voice to the nation. If I'm going to have a voice to the nation, that means I've got to be able to speak. I have to be able to speak to people of all communities, of all cultures, of all races, religions, creed, colors. Those things are important. So we have to be able to cross the lines and whether that's cross, as my great aunt who raised me used to say, cross the tracks. We got to be able to go cross the tracks and to be able to deal with someone who is not like us. And for me, Ricardo, it's an idea. So can I confess something to you?
Go for it. Yeah.
So I've had some very hurtful experiences in a multicultural environments, specifically church, over the last 7 years, I would say almost 8 years. Was a part of a mega church who was mainly white. I'll just go ahead and say it. And last hired, first fired. To nothing of my doing. I was a part of a community where some people didn't understand what I did, and they chose to point out something in me that was different than them while I was in Texas. And it really, I had this meeting, and it ultimately boiled down while I was there in Texas. It ultimately boiled down to, he doesn't want to be my friend. That was what, the community was saying, is that he doesn't do it like we do. So that means he's not being our friend. He's not playing along with how we do stuff. I was in Grand Rapids and had some very different opinions and very different outlooks. In all of these communities and in all of these situations, in some of them churches, some of them workplaces, in those communities, it made me walk away and say, I don't know how I feel about a certain race, particularly white. And then with everything that went on over the last 2 years in this country, particularly in the evangelical community, and because was entrenched in the church and have been entrenched in the church for more time than I've been even living, more time, on one side than the other. Long story short, it caused me to say, I don't even know if I could see there being true Christians or a true relationship with God. That's not up for me to say how a person has a relationship with God. But I'm gonna say this, I confess that and say that because I've had a tough time over the last 2 years, and particularly, those experiences in the past, I've moved past all of that. But particularly over the last 2 years, looking at the climate of our country and the political climate, and then there was a lot of people who were church driven, from the church background, it made me kind of question some things. But I say that related to your question because I had a problem with the people. Therefore, I wasn't able, and I have not been able to be effective in that community. I've kept myself away from it. And this is, I think, the second part to it. The second part to it is when you choose to shut down in those communities and separate from those communities, you no longer you don't have a door into being able to be heard or to listen. Because when you keep that attitude and that thought process, you're not able to reach that community because you're already going in with a biased mentality. And that's what I felt when I was in a couple of places. There's a lot of micro aggression and a lot of micro bias that folks were showing me, and they didn't even understand it. And that's a better terminology and picture of what was happening to me in Texas, as well as in the last city I was in Grand Rapids. It was a lot of that going on, and they just didn't understand it. And it wasn't their fault. It was part of the community and how things were. And I chose then to push it away and say, I'm just done. But I realized I cannot be effective. And this is in the church community. It didn't have anything to do with my work or any of that. I was fine there. But in the community of the church, and I realized I can't be effective. I can't be influential. I can't even have a great relationship if I'm willing to hold on to that hurt.
Yeah.
And so I had to deal with my hurt, and I've been dealing with it really over the last 6 months of being able to say, we're all different. We're all in the hospital. You know, everybody has their own sicknesses in the sense, but we all need the healing. And if that's even racial, in a racial way, we all need to come to the table and just deal with it. And I had to deal with mine. I'm sorry that went way off, that kind of veered off, but
that was really good. You brought out a lot of stuff there. I almost want to be like, which one? I'm going to grab this one. That's because you will go. It was really good. But I want to talk about this. I'm meeting you, and we're talking about multicultural leadership and becoming better people. That's what this platform is all about. You want to live life effectively. Your assignment in life, for those of you that are watching, your assignment in life can be attached to a different people group that you're familiar with.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have an understanding or appreciation on how to deal with difference, it could limit you from ever being who you were created to be. So I want this conversation to help those of you that are watching. So please tag, share, invite someone else to watch this, because this is really good stuff. But EC, when we look at I need you. This is in multicultural environment, be it church, corporate environments, or even community. I need you, but I don't want to befriend you. I don't want to know you. I just want to somewhat use you. The danger there in relations to multicultural environments. What do you think to be the danger there? Because obviously we have some people, well, this people group, they work hard and we can hire them for that, but we don't want to friend them. We will use them, and the whole breakdown on how that will affect my overall leadership in being successful overall as well. What's your view there?
Well, you know what, you said it, that word use, when we need someone, but we don't befriend them, we are using them. And what it's based and rooted in selfishness. And that is, for a leader, pride goes before destruction and a haughty spirit before a fall. If we are selfish in our approach to how we relate with people, we're soon, I don't care, it can happen today, it could be 1 year, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years. At some point in your life, you're going to have to face that situation. Slavery went on for 400 years in this country. Slavery was happening, racism and all of that for years in this country. What we had to grasp and get used to and understand is this idea of white people had to get understood is they're here and they're not going anywhere. Yeah. And so how do we not just get along to go along, but how do we help for the ones that really want to be allies and want to change things or make a change and have a difference and connect? It's an idea of how do I connect in a way that will allow each person to utilize their gift. Any way other than that, any idea other than that is selfishness. And it is you use the word. And so I play, not just play on that word, but that's the word I think it is. And so for me, we have to learn, especially as leaders, we have to learn how to allow a person to be authentically them in the environment that they're in and give them a voice, give them an opportunity at the table to have a conversation, to hear an idea, to share. So whether that's church, whether that's corporate, whether that's in your home, in your community, at a job, wherever that is, it's sharing a voice, it's sharing of vision. And in doing that, it has to be greater than, if it's anything more than that, you're using a person, you're selfish, and eventually you're going to have to deal with that. And as scripture says, you fall. Yeah. That's ultimately the end of it.
Yeah, I've traveled a lot, and I've had the privilege. I'm from the Bahamas. In Bahamas, I think we've not properly addressed the Bahamian Haitian relationship. As of here in the United States, it's the African American Caucasian relationship or the Hispanic Caucasian African American relationship. However, we want to place that particular group. If you're in Mexico, you're in Mexico, and people think Mexicans all just want to come to the United States, but there are Hondurans who are being treated like crap coming through Mexico, trying to get to the United States, and so forth. So there is this extreme low tolerance for difference people group that is obviously there and ain't going nowhere. That's one of the reasons why I really wanted to look at this subject matter and say, okay, where do we go from here? What are some of the promising realities that we're seeing today? And we know it's not where it needs to be, but what are some of the promising things that we're possibly seeing? What you would like to highlight first before we go on with another question?
I think there's a book by Emmanuel Achu, I believe that's how you pronounce his last name, Achu. It is called Difficult Conversations with a Black Man. I believe it's called Difficult. I'm reading the book and the title. Anyway, it's having those difficult conversations with communities. We must, is imperative that we talk. It's imperative that we have these type of conversations and be inclusive in those conversations. We have to be able to listen. So I think some of the solutions are platforms like this, opportunities like this, where people can hear diverse opinions, hear diverse conversation, and be invited to join in. So having those difficult conversations. Secondly, having the food together, sitting down, having a conversation amongst food, but eating together does something so effective. It kind of puts everybody on the same field, because if you're eating the meal that I'm eating, your meal isn't any better or any greater because we're eating the same meal. So having a meal together, having a platform like this, and then finally, having some fun together, doing a project, doing something together that unites you, whether that is going out. We often use, especially the church, man, we will go out in community, feed people to death. I shouldn't say to death, but we will go out and just totally, and that's needed. That's needed, especially here in America, not just around the world, but doing something together that's productive, whether that's habitats for humanity, or whether that's, again, a feeding kitchen, whether that is going out to take a bus and get 25 people from all different things. We did a trip when I was on the staff of a church here in Chicago. We actually took 25 people from one church, mainly white, and then we took 25 people from our church, which was mainly Black, and we went on something called a justice journey. We did that we stayed in 8 hotels in a matter of 7 days. It was a week, and it was grueling because you were almost, I shouldn't say forced, but you were placed in this environment and you had to have conversation. And we did all 3 of those things. We had a conversation, we ate together, and we did activity together. And we learned so much about each other's and ourselves as well. So I think those things will help make things better.
When you think about what you just mentioned, being a leader and opening oneself up to ensure that you're not just working with those who are naturally attracted to you, which can pretty much almost find itself being your particular people group. What would you say then, because that is so healthy and so necessary, and I think it does push us the envelope, how would you say leaders should intentionally put themselves out there to make sure that they're creating a more diverse support system around them, or a more inclusive community when it comes to their tribe, when it comes to their team?
Well, there was a book called Walk Across the Room. And the premise of the book was being in an environment that is different from yours, seeing someone that is different than you, and deciding to walk across the room to engage. And I think that is, for me, the key is deciding to walk across the room, to walk across the aisle, as they would say in political world, or to walk across, the street, to cross whatever that boundary, that proverbial boundary is, and engage conversation, engage in a community, engage in some type of interaction. I think that is going to be the key for a lot of people, especially as a leader. If you are ready, let me take that little part back. You may not be ready, but if you open yourself up to walk across the room, walk across the aisle, walk across the hallway to the other office, and just engage in a conversation, ask questions, I guarantee you that's the beginning of having that relationship, having that understanding that's going to change your world and change who you are, even as a leader.
EC, in our last couple of questions, I'm gonna throw some hot ones.
Okay.
There are a lot of people. There are a lot of people who believe because I work with you, that means that I'm not the other people who are not embracive of difference. Talk about that just a little bit, because I'm of the belief, if you have no white friends, Black friends, Hispanic friends, Asian friends, why? In an environment where you could, in a space where you could, but someone would respond to me, and that's why I'm bringing this out now. And so someone would respond to me. Well, I worked with some Black people, I work with some white people, I work with some Hispanic people, and what's this? They okay, but they okay. Talk to us quickly, EC.
It's that idea of, but you're not like them. Well, you know how they are, but I don't mean you. I had somebody say that to me not long ago. It was like, but I don't mean you. Just because you don't mean me doesn't mean that you know me, because I am the them that you most likely are talking about. I think it's this idea, if you're forced, again, I'll go back to that. If you're paid to get along with people or to be in an environment with people, then you don't know the people. And so it's an idea where you have to do, as a leader, is decide to walk outside of that and engage. Again, I will go back to that and default at that of walking across the room. It's sad if your only interaction is you're paid to interact.
Wow.
Then you don't know, and you're not being effective at it, even as a leader.
Yeah, diverse environment where you're asked to and you comply to, but you don't naturally embrace outside of that space. What advice would you give to those people, again, because we are moving into that type of environment where people are all somewhat being paid to get along, but then naturally at your birthday party, at your reunion, at your graduation, at your picnic, at your whatever, it reveals who somewhat you're really more about. Any tips?
You know what? Don't assume that don't believe everything you hear. When you watch the movies and the TV and the news, that ain't everybody. let me just be real. Let me go a little African American on you. That ain't all of us. But the truth is, intentionally learning. So reading some things that reflect the culture you're trying to learn about, whether it's white learning about Black, whether it's Black learning about Hispanic or Latina community, Latino community, whether that is male learning about female. Read some things that are written by them, not just other people talking about them. Read some stuff, not just watching the media, the news for all your information. Look at a documentary. Look at something that's around that culture, and then engage. Again, go to some of the local shops. Stop at a restaurant, and then ask questions while you're there. Learn about the food. Learn about the culture. It's all about learning.
Last point. No, challenge our viewing audience. There are a lot of people who are still struggling with being judgmental. Just, I know you threaded a response to all of that through all of your comments. But closing thought, multicultural leaders moving forward have to, I think one of the first things they have to do is decide, I'm not going to be judgmental out of the gate.
Well, put yourself in the shoes of the other. There's a scripture that says, judge not so that you not judge, or judge being judgmental only puts you in the same shoe. And so I think for me, as I'm learning, and again, I don't have this, Ricardo, I don't have this to a T, but I'm learning that I have to put out what I want to come back. It's the boomerang effect. It's the planting. It's the harvest, the sowing, the harvest effect. What I want to come back to me, I have to put it out. So it's an idea of, in order not to judge, I have to put myself in that person's place. I have to say, if that was me, how would I want someone to view me? And then I have to be willing to accept that and move forward and engage and listen and learn.
Come on, that is so good. EC Cunningham, ladies and gentlemen, today we're talking about becoming a multicultural leader. I was pushing the envelope a little bit so we can get as much out of this time that we have.
Yes, sir.
EC, closing remarks. There are people out there, they want to succeed. This is one of those subject matters we can no longer ignore. And every bit of truth that we can pick up along the way to help us become better, I believe it advances the kingdom. So what's your closing thought?
I work for one of the largest, if not the largest companies, or the most lucrative companies in the world right now. And what I've learned is there's one kind of theme we have, is this idea of assuming positive intent. When someone comes in, when someone is buying something, or when someone is engaging, someone needs some service, someone needs some customer service, the idea is assume positive intent. Whatever is happening, whatever they're doing, whatever they want, we have to assume the best in them. And so I think as a leader, it's a life changing mantra for me. It changed how I view, and I think for you, it would really help. Assume positive intent. At the end of the day, this person wants to be great just like you. This person wants to live just like you. This person wants to be influential, relevant, just like you. So assume positive intent. And when you assume positive intent, you help that person become better, because now you approach it with an open arms and a level playing field to say, hey, I want to engage, I want to learn, I want to connect, and help us both to grow and be great at who we are and where we're going.
Ladies and gentlemen, a thought-provoking conversation, one that you need to go back and listen to over and over again. In addition, go ahead and do the work to discover what is it that you need to know to successfully move forward in this multicultural world we're now living in. EC Cunningham, it's always a delight to have you, my brother.
Man, I appreciate you so much, Ricardo. I love these conversations. I look forward to more. And hey, can I just tell you, I got a book. I have a book. I didn't, oh man, what did I do with my book? Anyway, I have a book called, oh, here it is. I have the printer's copy, the no sale copy. It's called Boldly Go. You didn't tell me to say this, but I appreciate the opportunity. Boldly Go. It's the church's job to help. It's an idea of how to reach your community, but it's not just for the church. I think it's for everybody. It's the idea of what we need to reach beyond those that are unlike us, and reach those that are outside of us. You can reach me at eccunningham.com or epluribus, the name that's there, at leadersimage.org.
Listen, EC, we're going to come back and do a full feature talk on that book. As soon as I can get me a copy in my hand, We're going to talk about it.
It's on its way, man. It's on its way.
We're going to talk about it, guys. Listen, I'm telling you guys, it is conversations like this that allows you to grow and become better. You got to tell yourself, I'm in pursuit of becoming the best version of myself. The only way you're going to do that is to become a lifelong learner. Listen, it's effective living. We're challenging you to take care of your faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun. We got an event coming up. We want you to register, be a part of that event. It's happening right here in Dallas, Texas next weekend. Check it out. Thank you for watching us today.